After leaving Qing City behind, Xuan carries his sister toward the Imperial Capital, where hope and danger wait ahead. On the road, hidden enemies hunt for the spirit stones in his possession, while a mysterious power begins to notice Ye Lian's unusual body. A broken clan fades behind them, but a far greater world is opening before their eyes. Now let us follow the next developments in The First Sword God, Episode 4. In the darkness, the young man drove the carriage forward at high speed. On the seat of the carriage, the young girl hugged his arm tightly, resting her head against his shoulder. Her eyes were half closed. Clearly, she had already entered a sweet dream. From time to time, the young man glanced at the girl beside him, his eyes filled with affection. "You truly spoil your little sister." At that moment, the voice of the mysterious woman suddenly sounded in Xuan's mind. Hearing that voice, Xuan was slightly stunned. Then he smiled and said, "I am her elder brother. If I don't spoil her, who will?" The mysterious woman said, "You are a good elder brother." Xuan smiled. "Senior, I heard that sword immortals can split mountains and sever rivers with a single sword strike. Is that true?" The woman replied, "It is true." Hearing this, Xuan immediately felt a trace of longing. Sword immortal. To ride a sword through heaven and earth, to look down upon mountains and rivers, Xuan wanted that too. At that moment, the mysterious woman encouraged him. "As long as you work hard, you also have a chance to become a sword immortal." Xuan grinned, "I know. When I can control a sword and fly, I will take my sister to see every corner of this world." The woman teased, "Look at you." Xuan laughed loudly and increased the speed of the carriage. 1 hour later, white light appeared on the horizon. Dawn had arrived, but it had begun to rain. Xuan raised his head and looked up. The rain was becoming heavier and heavier. It was no longer suitable to continue traveling. Xuan sped up. After a while, he saw a mansion in the mountains ahead. From where he stood, the mansion looked somewhat old and broken, even desolate. Seeing this mansion, Xuan frowned slightly. Why would there be a mansion deep in these mountains? He originally did not want to stop, but the rain was growing heavier and the wind was strong. It was truly unsuitable to continue on. Xuan was silent for a moment. Then he took out the map Li Yu had given him. He found their current location on the map, and there was no marking here indicating danger. Only then did Xuan feel slightly more at ease. He stopped the carriage before the mansion. The gate of the mansion was open. Xuan observed the mansion in front of him. Up close, the place seemed to have been abandoned for a very long time. The surrounding walls were covered with weeds. Seeing that the rain showed no sign of stopping, Xuan and Ye Lian entered the mansion. The siblings walked into a great hall. Inside the hall were two people, a gray-robed old man and a young man around 17 or 18 years old. The two stayed close together. Clearly, they had come together. Seeing Xuan and Ye Lian, the old man only glanced at them before looking away. The young man, however, nodded with a smile, as if greeting them. Xuan nodded back and led his sister to sit down at one side. Xuan started a fire himself, then took out 2 turkeys and began roasting them. Seeing this, the young man nearby immediately brightened. He ran over to Xuan and said, "I am Jiang. May I ask how this brother should be addressed?" Xuan glanced at the young man. Xuan, Jiang grinned. "Meeting is fate, don't you think?" Xuan pointed at the turkeys over the fire. "Want to eat?" Jiang was stunned for a moment, then nodded repeatedly. Xuan handed one to the young man. "This one is for you." Jiang did not refuse. He took it and began roasting it himself. Jiang glanced at Xuan and smiled. "Although Brother Yi is only in the Kai transformation realm, your foundation is solid, not much inferior to mine." Hearing this, Xuan's hand paused slightly, but it quickly returned to normal. "You are unfathomable." That was the feeling the young man before him gave him. In truth, he did not know that he gave the young man the same feeling. The young man frowned slightly. "Shall we exchange a couple of moves?" As if thinking of something, he added, "Only within limits." At that moment, the old man not far away suddenly said, "Do not bully others." Hearing the old man's words, Ye Lian, who was beside Xuan, immediately became unhappy. She glanced at the old man and said, "Grandfather, my brother is very strong. Maybe my brother will be the one bullying him." The old man glanced at Ye Lian. "Is that so?" Ye Lian looked toward Xuan. Xuan smiled softly. "Then let us exchange 2 moves." Xuan and Xianxia walked to one side. Xianxia smiled softly. "May we begin?" Xuan nodded. The moment Xuan nodded, Xianxia instantly vanished. In the next second, Xianxia punched Xuan in the chest, but Xuan also punched him in the chest. Bang, bang. The two retreated more than 10 steps at the same time and stopped almost simultaneously. Opposite him, Xianxia observed Xuan for a moment, then said in surprise, "Your physical body is even stronger than I imagined." Xuan said, "Yours too. That punch just now had felt like striking an iron plate." Xianxia smiled and said, "Our Jiang kingdom truly has many talents. After leaving the Imperial Palace, I have finally met one. Ahem." At that moment, the old man not far away suddenly made a sound. Xianxia glanced helplessly at the old man. "Old Kai, if everything must be restricted when traveling outside, where is the fun in it?" The old man said, "Outside, people's hearts are complicated." Xianxia smiled, "It is fine. This brother looks like a straightforward person at first glance, not a petty villain with an unpredictable heart." After saying this, he cupped his fists toward Xuan. "Brother Yi, I am Xianxia, the 10th prince of Jiang Kingdom, a prince." Xuan was somewhat surprised. He had not expected to meet a prince of Jiang Kingdom in a place like this. Xuan gathered his thoughts and cupped his fists. Xuan, an unknown nobody. Hearing this, Xianxia laughed loudly. "Brother Yi, with your strength, becoming famous is only a matter of time." Xuan remained silent. He had never cared much about empty fame. Many times such things could get people killed. At this moment the rain had weakened a little. The old man stood. "Your Highness, we should leave." Xianxia nodded lightly. He picked up the turkey that had already been roasted golden, then looked toward Xuan. "Brother Yi, I must go elsewhere. Farewell." At this point, as if remembering something, he took out a token and handed it to Xuan. "Brother Yi, this is a token I carry with me. It has some use in the Imperial Capital. Please do not refuse it. Otherwise, I will not dare eat this roasted chicken of yours." Xuan glanced at Xianxia, then accepted the jade token. Seeing Xuan accept it, Xianxia grinned, "Until we meet again." After saying this, he turned and left the hall with the old man. Xuan watched the backs of the two for a long time without speaking. Outside the mansion, the old man asked softly, "Your Highness wishes to recruit him?" Xianxia smiled softly. "That person is a sword cultivator. But just now, before he even drew his sword, he was already able to fight me evenly. If he drew his sword, I might not necessarily be able to defeat him." After saying this, he turned and glanced at the abandoned mansion. As expected of someone national scholar and values, it was not a waste to travel 1,000 li here. The old man hesitated for a moment, then said, "Although that person has a solid foundation and extraordinary combat strength, he is still alone. He has no noble family behind him and no sect. In the end, his future path will be limited. Moreover, without a family or background, he can hardly provide much help to your Highness. Perhaps this is why the first prince and the 9th princess did not send anyone to Qing City." Xianxia smiled softly. "My eldest brother's mother comes from the Yu family, a second-rate noble family of our Jiang Kingdom. Even Father Emperor must show them some caution. As for 9th sister, she is commander of the 3 armies and controls almost half of Jiang Kingdom's military forces. Naturally, the two of them look down on ordinary talents like this." The old man asked, "Then why did your Highness travel such a long distance here?" Xianxia said softly, "Compared with them, I have no advantage at all. They can be picky, but I cannot. Perhaps the friendship I form today will become a great help in the future." The old man fell silent. Sword cultivators were indeed rare, but being merely a sword cultivator did not mean much, unless one became a sword Dao Grandmaster. And how difficult was it to become a sword Dao Grandmaster? There was only one in Jiang Kingdom, and that person was already over 90 years old. Jiang Kingdom had not produced a sword Dao Grandmaster in nearly 50 years. Inside the hall, Big brother, was that person really a prince? Ye Lian asked curiously. Xuan nodded, most likely. Ye Lian said softly, it feels like he deliberately waited for you here. Xuan looked at Ye Lian and smiled. In noble families, some people must form factions and strengthen their own power. How much more so in the imperial family? After saying this, he gently rubbed Ye Lian's head. Right now, Big Brother only wants to cure your cold illness. I have no interest at all in fighting for power and profit. Ye Lian asked softly, Big Brother, can I cultivate in the future? Xuan smiled, you definitely can. Of course, even if you cannot, it does not matter. I will work hard to become stronger and protect you for the rest of your life. Ye Lian smiled sweetly and hugged Xuan tightly. Although I really want Big Brother to protect me, I want to protect you even more. Xuan was about to speak when a voice suddenly sounded from nearby. What deep sibling affection. After those words, an old man walked in. The person who arrived was Qin Yu, an elder of the Qin family. Seeing him, Xuan slowly clenched his fists and glanced at Ye Lian. Go to the side. Ye Lian looked at the old man, then said softly, Big Brother, be careful. After saying this, she obediently stepped aside. Qin Yu looked at Xuan. Hand over those spirit stones and I will leave you and your sister with complete corpses. Xuan clenched his fists. His face turned ashen and he said nothing. Qin Yu sneered, what, you want to attack? You are only in the Kai transformation realm. This old man is in the Skysoar realm. Killing you would not even require one move. Although he said this, he was secretly on guard. Having lived to his age, he was naturally not stupid. He would not be careless and underestimate his opponent. Xuan said in a deep voice, if I hand those things over, can you give my sister and me a path to survive? Qin Yu narrowed his eyes, bargaining. After saying this, he slowly clenched his fist. In an instant, his robes swelled, like a lion waiting to pounce. Xuan was silent for a blink. Then he threw a black pouch toward Qin Yu. Seeing it, Qin Yu was delighted and quickly reached out to catch it. But at that moment, Xuan suddenly appeared before him. Qin Yu's expression did not change, he sneered. This old man knew you would pretend. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his right hand and pressed it down. Bang. The sound of air exploding rang out, boom. Xuan had just thrown a punch when he was shaken backward and smashed into the wall several zhang away. After forcing Xuan back, the old man did not stop. He leaned forward and charged at Xuan. Not far away, Ye Lian's face changed completely. Big Brother. She ran in front of Xuan and hugged him tightly. But the old man's palm did not stop. It struck toward the two siblings, more accurately, toward Ye Lian. Seeing this, Xuan's eyes widened. At that moment, his mind went blank. The old man's hand drew closer and closer. At that moment, Xuan suddenly pulled Ye Lian behind him. In the next second, the Ling Xiao sword appeared in his hand, and a low sword hum rang out. When he slashed with this sword, he had only one thought. Kill, he had to kill. One sword decides life and death. At the same time, inside the world prison tower, the mysterious woman's voice sounded. This fellow. Only when someone touches his sister does his desire to kill become this intense. Slash. When Xuan drew his sword, Qin Yu's hand, which was only half an inch from Ye Lian's head, suddenly stopped. In the blink of an eye, his raised right hand fell from his body. Blood poured out like a spring. Qin Yu's expression changed completely, and he retreated. He backed several zhang away, but the instant he stopped, a faint sword light had already arrived in front of him. This was not a second sword strike. It was the sword light released by the sword strike just now. This time Qin Yu was utterly shocked. Without time to think, he clenched his left hand into a fist and punched forward. This punch used nearly all the strength of his life. With life and death before him, he naturally did not dare hold back any strength. His fist struck and the sound of air exploding rang out. The sword arrived, slash. When fist and sword collided, Qin Yu's entire left arm flew off. Blood sprayed like a fountain. At the same time, Qin Yu was blasted several zhang away. Xuan did not continue attacking, because at this moment, cracks had appeared across his entire right arm and fresh blood kept flowing from them. Not only that, after using the sword strike just now, he felt as if his body had been turned upside down. It was extremely uncomfortable. He even felt as if his limbs had lost all strength, as though his whole body had been drained dry. Extremely uncomfortable. In the distance, Qin Yu stared at Ye Xuan in disbelief. Sword light. How is this possible? You are a sword cultivator. No, you are a great sword cultivator. No, you are clearly only in the Kai transformation realm. You should be completely unable to release sword light, and you cannot possibly be a great sword cultivator. One could be called a sword cultivator after mastering certain foundations of the sword Dao. But sword cultivators were divided into ordinary sword cultivators and great sword cultivators. If a sword cultivator could use a sword to release sword Kai and sword light, it meant he had reached the level of a great sword cultivator. Great sword cultivators were extremely rare. In all of Jiang Kingdom, there were fewer than 100 sword cultivators, and most of them were several decades old or older. Yet Ye Xuan before him was only around 18. This was why Qin Yu was so shocked. Ye Xuan glanced coldly at Qin Yu. Why aren't you getting lost? Qin Yu was stunned. In the next second, he turned and disappeared from the siblings' sight. The moment Qin Yu fled, Ye Xuan collapsed weakly to the ground. Ye Lian beside him was terrified and hurriedly supported him, trembling. Big brother, are you all right? Ye Xuan forced himself to sit up. Looking at the nervous Ye Lian in front of him, he forced a smile. I am fine, don't worry, I'll meditate for a while. After saying this, he slowly closed his eyes. Senior, Ye Xuan asked inwardly. The mysterious woman said, I know what you want to ask. This sword strike is the life and death sword technique. It is too ruthless. Your current strength is still too weak, and you cannot withstand its power at all. Every time you use this sword strike now, you injure the enemy by 1,000 but damage yourself by 800. I taught you this sword technique now because I wanted you to understand certain truths. The sword Dao many times depends on comprehension. It is also an attitude. Whatever your attitude is, that is what your sword Dao will become. Hearing this, Ye Xuan fell silent. Comprehension, attitude. Why had he used that life and death sword strike just now? It was not because he had practiced hard. At that moment, he only wanted his sister to be safe. That was his thought. As the mysterious woman had once said, one sword decides life and death was not truly just a sword technique. It was more like a concept of the sword Dao. The mysterious woman continued at this stage. Your one sword decides life and death can barely be considered a high-grade profound rank sword technique. The reason you suffered such severe backlash is because you have not yet reached the Imperial Kai realm. You cannot truly control Kai. The sword light just now was not something you cultivated yourself, but the power of this sword technique. That is why you were harmed by the backlash. After you take your sister to the Imperial Capital, you must think of a way to find spirit swords to devour and quickly reach the Imperial Kai realm. Ye Xuan nodded. I understand. No wonder after using this sword technique, I felt extremely uncomfortable inside, as if I had been drained dry. But it was still good. One sword strike cut off both arms of that old man. At this point, the corner of his mouth lifted into a smile. After all, that old man was in the Skysword realm. Idiot. The woman said coldly, although that person's realm is weak, you still cannot truly fight him right now. The reason you could cut off both of his arms with one sword strike earlier was half because he became careless after using one palm strike to force you back. If he had known in advance that you were a sword cultivator and guarded against you from the start, do you think you could have cut off both of his arms? Hearing this, Ye Xuan's expression immediately became heavy. That was true. If the old man had been on guard from the beginning, could he really have cut off both of his arms with one strike? He had to remember that when he first exchanged a punch with the old man, he had been completely defeated. And that was only because he had cultivated the golden body realm. Otherwise, that old man's palm strike would have been enough to kill him. The woman said the realm gap between you and him is too large, with your current strength. You cannot challenge someone 2 levels above you. Unless you can grasp a law and activate the world prison tower within you. A law. Ye Xuan asked seriously, Senior, I heard you mention laws before. What exactly is this law? Where can I find one? The mysterious woman said, once you become a Sword Dao Grandmaster, you will understand what a law is. Ye Xuan. The woman continued, there is one more thing. Do not only focus on your sister. The seal on the second floor has already shown signs of loosening. If you do not quickly increase your strength, once the seal disappears, no one will be able to save you. The seal was loosening. Ye Xuan took a deep breath. Of course, he had not forgotten what the mysterious woman had said. The first floor had imprisoned a sword master. Before he arrived, that sword master had already died. But the one on the second floor was definitely not dead. When the seal was undone, perhaps the other party would immediately kill him as an offering to the heavens. Fortunately, he still had some time. Ye Xuan put away his thoughts and opened his eyes. At this moment, although he still felt weak all over, he was much better than before. He only had to be extremely careful when using this sword strike in the future. Because when he used it, if the opponent did not die, then he might be the one to die. If the old man had continued attacking just now, Ye Xuan would likely have been dead. There was still a gap between him and the Skysword realm, but if he risked his life, he still had a chance to fight. At that moment, Ye Lian suddenly asked, Big brother, are you really all right? Ye Xuan looked at Ye Lian. Seeing the little girl's pale face, he smiled softly, Don't worry. I just need to rest for a while. Hearing this, Ye Lian looked relieved. Then, as if thinking of something, her expression darkened. Big brother, I am so useless. Ye Xuan said sternly, Don't think too much. After you recover, Big brother will cultivate with you. When you become a martial artist, you can protect me. All right, Ye Lian looked at Ye Xuan. Can I really cultivate? Ye Xuan smiled. You definitely can. Ye Lian clenched her little fists, her expression extremely determined. Big brother, in the future, I must become a super powerful expert. I also want to protect you. Ye Xuan rubbed Ye Lian's head and smiled. I will wait for that day. Ye Xuan did not know that this casual sentence from him would be remembered by the little girl before him for her entire life. After resting for an hour, Ye Xuan continued on the road with Ye Lian, Qing City. Ye Xuan increased his speed, because he discovered that Ye Lian now had to wear very thick clothes even during the day. Moreover, she had to take 2 life-nourishing pills each time before the cold Qi in her body could be suppressed. At this rate, the life-nourishing pills would be gone in half a month. And that was not the most important issue. The most important issue was that he feared the life-nourishing pills would stop working on Ye Lian. If that happened, the situation would become extremely serious. He had to reach the capital as soon as possible. Not long after the siblings left, Qin Ba, the head of the Qin family, and Qin Yu, whose arms had been cut off by Ye Xuan, appeared in the great hall of the abandoned mansion. Looking at the 2 severed arms on the ground, Qin Yu's expression was extremely ugly. Qin Ba's face was also dark. After a while, Qin Ba said heavily, Is he truly a great sword cultivator? Qin Yu nodded. If he were not a great sword cultivator, how could he have cut off both my arms? Qin Ba clenched his fists tightly. His face was cold and no one knew what he was thinking. After a while, Qin Ba sighed softly. We cannot take revenge for this grudge. Qin Yu's expression was gloomy, but he said nothing. Indeed, a great sword cultivator, and such a young one at that, was frightening just to think about. How could the Qin family still dare continue seeking revenge? At that moment, Qin Ba said again, but this matter cannot be left like this. Spread the news. Say that Ye Xuan has several dozen high-grade spirit stones on him. Once this news gets out, I believe many people will have designs on him. Hearing this, Qin Yu's expression looked a little better. That is true. Although my Qin family cannot continue taking revenge, we can let others do it. At this point, as if thinking of something, he looked toward Qin Ba. That person is named Ye Xuan. Is he also from the Ye family? Qin Ba nodded. He was originally the heir of the Ye family. But after the Ye family produced a heaven-chosen one named Ye Lian, he was pushed aside and suppressed by the clan. In the end, he swore to leave the Ye family and is no longer a member of the Ye family. Qin Yu froze, then said, Were the heads of the Ye family's higher-ups caught in a door? Qin Ba nodded. The Ye family has now almost become a joke in the surrounding cities. You should know that Ye Xuan was personally challenged by National Scholar and I heard National Scholar and viewed him differently. That heavenly phenomenon was also caused by Ye Xuan, not Ye Lian. Yet the high-level figures of the Ye family thought it was caused by Ye Lian and celebrated extravagantly. The elders and clan head of the Ye family are truly a bunch of pig brains, too stupid. Qin Yu nodded, they really are stupid. How is the Ye family now? Qin Ba said softly, they are being suppressed by the other families and can barely breathe. Right, although we cannot trouble that Ye fellow, we can use this as an excuse to gain benefits from the Ye family. Go. Return and bring people to Qing City to settle accounts with the Ye family. After saying this, Qin Ba turned and left. Qin Yu glanced at his severed arms, his expression complicated. This grudge could no longer be avenged. Not only could he not avenge his own grudge, he could not avenge Qin Chang's either. Although he was resentful, he knew this matter should end here. As a small noble family, one had to understand one thing, who could be provoked and who could not. If the Qin family still wanted revenge, the result might push the Qin family into a situation from which it could not turn back. After all, Ye Xuan was not only powerful, he was also valued by national scholar and if the Qin family continued seeking revenge, it would be stupidity. A moment later, Qin Yu turned and left. Not long after that, a group of Qin family members rushed to the Ye family in Qing City. Ye Xuan could not be touched. He could not be avenged against, but the Ye family could, the Ye family Qing City. This clan no longer had its former glory. It could even be said that it was about to disappear from Qing City. When the Ye family had held power, they had offended almost all the other families. Now that they had fallen from power, the Lai family, the Zhang family, and the city lord's mansion were all taking revenge with madness. The territories and shops that once belonged to the Ye family were gradually swallowed by the other families. The younger members of the clan basically did not dare step outside. If they did, they would be beaten to death. The word miserable was not enough to describe the Ye family at this moment. At the same time, the great elder was imprisoned in the water dungeon, gasping like an old dog. The last trace of hope in him had vanished when he heard that Ye Lian had been beheaded. From then on, he became half-mad. One day, Ye Kang entered the water dungeon. Looking indifferently at the great elder inside the cell, he said, "You and I fought each other for our whole lives. I never thought the Ye family would collapse in our hands." The great elder mocked him. "Ye Kang, the world says my vision was shallow. Do you also think so?" Ye Kang nodded, it was indeed shallow. "But my clan will absolutely not decline forever. It will certainly rise again one day." The great elder curled his lips. "Are you still dreaming that he will care about the Ye family out of old affection? Stop dreaming in broad daylight. You understand that Boy's temperament better than anyone. The Ye family wronged him. In this life he will never look back, not even once." Ye Kang was silent for a while, then smiled faintly. "Do not forget one thing. According to rumor, when an individual's strength reaches a certain level, their bloodline will mutate. At that time, everyone connected to them by blood will also change, and their strength will increase accordingly." "Nonsense," the great elder laughed. "I fear that no one in our Jiang kingdom has ever reached that threshold. You think Ye Xuan can?" Ye Kang took 2 steps forward and smiled. "Do you know why back then I ignored everyone's objections and made him the heir?" Under the great elder's fixed stare, Ye Kang said, aside from his personal strength, there was another reason: his mother, Ye Xuan's mother. The great elder frowned. His impression of that person was that she was a very ordinary woman. She had suddenly disappeared when Ye Xuan was 10 years old and had never appeared again since. Ye Kang slowly clenched his fist. Back then, he had also been present when Ye Xuan's mother left through the back gate of the residence. Only then did he learn how terrifyingly powerful the black-robed person behind her was. That person was hovering in the air. What kind of strength was required to do that? Those in the Skysoar realm could lift their feet off the ground for a short period of time. But that person hovered continuously in the air, and the air around them did not ripple in the slightest. In the end, those two left by tearing through space, something Ye Kang had only ever heard of in rumors. He had believed that the mysterious woman would one day return to take Ye Xuan and his sister away. At that time, the Ye family would surely gain no small benefit. That was why he had immediately made Ye Xuan the heir. But what Ye Kang had not expected was that she would vanish without a trace for 10 full years, never returning once and leaving not even a single piece of news. At that time, he immediately suspected that Ye Xuan and his sister had been abandoned. This was also the reason for the change in Ye Kang's attitude toward Ye Xuan. Once again, he had failed to anticipate that Ye Xuan would silently become a sword cultivator with extraordinary strength. But he knew this matter was absolutely connected to Ye Xuan's mother. Ye Kang stopped his thoughts and looked coldly at the great elder in the water dungeon. The stronger Ye Xuan becomes, the more our Ye family will be mocked and humiliated, but we will endure. We will endure until the day he steps above the clouds, changes his bloodline, and remembers our clan even if this hope is only faint. As for you, you will no longer have any hope. We did not kill you, and instead imprisoned you here so that Ye Xuan will know the Ye family has admitted its mistake. Even if we must wait 20 or 30 years, our clan will wait until the day his anger fades. You can slowly wait here for death. After saying this, Ye Kang flicked his sleeve and left, leaving the great elder in deep thought inside the water dungeon. Then the old man suddenly burst into mad laughter. Ye Kang, oh Ye Kang, you are even more foolish than I thought. He understood Ye Xuan's temperament better than anyone. He knew Ye Xuan was someone who repaid grudges and held them for a very long time, his anger fading. Hating the Ye family meant Ye Xuan still thought about this family. It meant they still had hope. But now he no longer even hated them. If there was no hatred left, how could there be any anger to fade? 3 days later, Xianxia City. This was a large and prosperous city located in the south-north region of Jiang Kingdom. It was surrounded on all sides by enormous mountains, which was why it was named Tianxin. The reason behind its prosperity was Jiang Kingdom's largest merchant association, Drunken Immortal Tower. This was an extremely mysterious power, with branches spread across more than 100 countries in Qingzhou. Every city they set foot in would certainly become prosperous, because they possessed a kind of transportation called flying ships. Ever since this flying transportation appeared, the distance between cities, or more accurately, the distance between countries, was no longer as far as before. Ye Xuan had come to Tianxin City in order to board a flying ship to the Imperial Capital, the most prosperous place in Jiang Kingdom. When the carriage clattered to the city gate, Ye Lian looked out from inside. Her eyes widened as she asked, "Wow, this city is so big." "It is even bigger than our Qing City, big brother." Ye Xuan nodded. "It is indeed big." Ye Lian shook his arm and said coquettishly, "Can we walk around the streets later?" Ye Xuan thought briefly, then nodded, "Of course." They had been rushing on the road for the past few days. Even he felt bored, let alone Ye Lian's. Walking around a little would be good. After that, Ye Xuan took Ye Lian into the city. They walked along streets several zhang wide, among flowing carriages and horses and crowds packed shoulder to shoulder. This city was indeed far livelier and more crowded than Qing City. Ye Xuan first took his sister to find an inn to stay in. Because Ye Lian's current condition was unstable, he did not dare leave her alone, so he only booked one room. After arranging a place to stay, Ye Xuan took Ye Lian out to stroll through the streets. Along the way, the little girl constantly looked left and right, chattering happily like a little spirit. Before long, her arms were full of small toys. Ye Lian's joy also brought a smile to Ye Xuan's face. As the siblings passed by a small stall, the voice of the mysterious woman suddenly sounded in his mind. "Wait." Ye Xuan was slightly stunned and quickly pulled his sister to a stop. "Senior," he thought inwardly. The woman said, "On the stall beside you there is a purple ring. Buy it." Ye Xuan looked over and indeed discovered an inconspicuous purple ring lying in the corner of the stall. The stall owner was a middle-aged man. He looked at Ye Xuan and smiled. "Brother, what would you like to buy?" Ye Xuan picked up the ring. "How much for this?" He did not ask why the mysterious woman wanted him to buy this ring, which looked completely ordinary. He knew that if the woman, who was usually nearly silent, spoke up like this, there was definitely a reason. The man looked at the ring in Ye Xuan's hand and said, 10 gold coins. This answer made Ye Xuan frown slightly. 10 coins was indeed somewhat expensive, but he still paid the stall owner without hesitation. In truth, if he had bargained the ring down to 3 gold coins, the owner still would have sold it. Seeing that Ye Xuan did not haggle, the owner was overjoyed. He chuckled and hurriedly stuffed the money into his pocket. Just as Ye Xuan was about to leave, a voice suddenly rang out, "Wait." He looked over and discovered that the speaker was a little girl about the same age as Ye Lian. Her lips were red and her teeth white. She wore a pure white cotton coat and her hair was braided into pigtails. She looked extremely adorable. The little girl looked at the ring in Ye Xuan's hand, then said to the stall owner, "I offer 20 gold coins for that ring." The stall owner froze, then revealed a troubled expression because he had already sold the ring to Ye Xuan. Ye Xuan looked at the little girl and smiled. "Little girl, this ring." "Who are you calling little?" she interrupted coldly. Ye Xuan froze, not knowing how to react to the little girl's attitude. Ye Lian, standing beside him, was visibly dissatisfied. "My brother had no bad intentions. Why are you speaking to him like that?" The little girl glanced over. Suddenly she froze. A series of emotions appeared in her eyes, surprise, shock, then joy. This change also surprised Ye Xuan. Ye Lian became uncomfortable under the little girl's gaze and immediately asked, "Why are you looking at me?" The little girl's expression quickly returned to normal. She seemed about to say something, but then, as if wary of something, she fell silent. After a while she asked, "What is your name?" Seeing that the other party's overbearing attitude had disappeared, Ye Lian replied, "Ye Lian." Then she hugged Ye Xuan's arm tightly. "This is my big brother, Ye Xuan." The little girl threw Ye Xuan a cold glance, then looked back at Ye Lian, clearly hesitating over something. Just as Ye Xuan was about to lead his sister away, the little girl suddenly took out a red stone the size of a fist and handed it to Ye Lian. "This is for you." Before the siblings could react, the little girl directly stuffed the stone into Ye Lian's arms. "This is Heavenly Fire Warm Jade. Carrying it can temporarily suppress the cold Kai in your body." Ye Xuan's expression changed. "You." But the little girl paid him no attention at all. She only said to Ye Lian, "I have an urgent matter to handle and cannot take you away. But at the latest, within 3 months, I will come find you." After saying this, she glanced sideways at Ye Xuan. "I only let you keep that ring because of your sister." Her gaze lingered on Ye Lian for a while longer before she finally left. After Ye Xuan came back to himself, he hurriedly chased after her. But in the blink of an eye, the little girl had already moved several zhang away. In another blink, she had completely vanished from his sight. He stood frozen in place. In a certain corner, when the little girl stopped by the wall, a person in a black cloak quietly appeared behind her and knelt on one knee. "Honored Lord," the little girl ordered coldly, "keep a close watch on those 2 siblings for me. No, you are too conspicuous. You cannot follow them. Find someone weaker to tail them. No matter what, that little girl must not have an accident." The black-cloaked person asked in a low voice, "Honored Lord wishes to accept that girl." The little girl slowly closed her eyes and spoke with excitement in her voice. "I did not expect that in a tiny Jiang kingdom, someone would actually possess such a physique. If the former cave residents of the Sword Master of the Kang realm were not too important, I would have taken her away already." The black-cloaked person replied, "Although the cave residence of the Sword Master of the Kang realm has been discovered, we cannot directly break the sword formation he left behind. It is said that his personal sword is needed to undo the formation. But where can we find the personal sword of someone who disappeared more than 1,000 years ago?" The little girl replied indifferently, "It is fine. This time, everyone is meeting precisely to find a solution." The black-cloaked person nodded. Then, as if thinking of something, he asked, "Does Honored Lord intend to accept the girl's elder brother as well?" The little girl shook her head. Although his foundation is not bad, his dantian is shattered, his physique is ordinary, and his spiritual root is only so-so. Why would I take him in? To waste food feeding him. After saying this, she immediately left. After the little girl left, Ye Xuan remained dazed for quite a while before returning to his senses and leading Ye Lian back to the inn room. Ye Lian looked at the Heavenly Fire Warm Jade in her palm and exclaimed in surprise, "Big brother, this stone is so warm. When I hold it, I don't feel cold anymore." Ye Xuan grinned. "As long as you feel warm, that is good." Ye Lian nodded happily and held the jade tightly in her hand. Ye Xuan sat beside her and slowly closed his eyes, "Senior, just now he asked. The mysterious woman replied, "You are not on the same level as the other party. Asking is useless." She continued, "Take out the ring I told you to buy." Xuan took out the purple ring. He saw that it was rather old with several damaged spots. He could not see anything special about it. "Do you know what this is?" the mysterious woman asked. Xuan shook his head. "This is a formation ring. Inside it is a small formation. Although it is low level, it is ingenious and highly skilled, with great research value. That should also be the reason that little girl wanted to buy it. You can use this formation for self-defense." Xuan asked in surprise, "Such a tiny ring can contain a small formation?" The mysterious woman replied calmly, "In the future, remember to travel more. This world is far broader and more marvelous than you imagine. When I can control a sword and fly, I will definitely travel everywhere." Xuan nodded. His gaze fell on the ring. "Senior, how do I use this formation?" "Drop a drop of your blood on the ring, then use the method I am about to teach you to control it." Xuan quickly did as she said. When the drop of blood disappeared into the surface of the ring, he suddenly felt a strange connection between himself and the ring. A formation also suddenly appeared in his mind, Five Thunder Formation. That was the name of the formation inside the ring. When activated, it could call down divine lightning to injure the enemy. Divine lightning. Xuan asked with some shock, "Senior, can this formation really summon divine lightning?" The mysterious woman replied, "Of course not. How could such a tiny formation summon the power of heaven and earth?" The divine lightning inside was created by the formation S-maker using certain methods. Although its offensive power cannot compare to true divine lightning, it is more than enough for you right now. With it in hand, even those in the Skysore realm will find it difficult to stop you. But this ring is already damaged. It can probably be used at most 5 more times. Xuan was overjoyed with his current strength. If he used one sword decides life and death, he could risk his life against someone in the Skysore realm. But the price he had to pay was truly enormous. It was no different from injuring the enemy by 1,000 while harming himself by 800. Possessing this ring was equivalent to having another life-saving card, but before long, Xuan's face wilted like a steamed bun left overnight. Because he discovered that the 5 Thunder Formation required spirit stones to activate. Not ordinary spirit stones either, but high-grade spirit stones. Each activation required at least 5. His current wealth was only 16 high-grade spirit stones. At that moment, Xuan deeply felt his own poverty. As if remembering something, his eyes lit up. "Senior, how about in the future we focus on treasure hunting? Your eyesight is so good. We will definitely be able to pick up big bargains." Are you dreaming in broad daylight?" The mysterious woman interrupted him. "Do you want me to follow you around treasure hunting? Even if you are delusional, do not be delusional to this degree." Xuan could only smile awkwardly. But the woman's voice turned cold. "No matter what you do, do not place your hopes on luck. Today you gained a great benefit because of luck, because it was something you deserved. But if from the start you carry the mindset of waiting for benefits, your state of mind will gradually be destroyed. Do not think I am joking. For a sword cultivator, the most important thing is the state of mind. Remember this well." Xuan nodded seriously. "Senior, do not be angry." I understand. He did not fear the mysterious woman, but he respected her very much. Thus, when he saw that she said no more, he breathed a sigh of relief. A while later, after Ye Lian had fallen asleep, he entered the world prison tower to cultivate. He could not immediately leap into the Imperial Kai realm, but he could practice sword movements. More accurately, at present, he did not really have any sword moves. Every time he fought the shadow, he relied on reflex. Moves were dead. What he polished when fighting the shadow was strength, speed, and reaction ability. Within the same realm, there were also differences between strong and weak. Although he could not temporarily reach the Imperial Kai realm, he could cultivate the Kai transformation realm to its highest level. Inside the first floor of the World Prison Tower, the sharp sound of swords clashing rang out continuously. When there was still 1 hour before dawn, Xuan closed his eyes to sleep, and he woke just as the sun rose. He paid for the room, sold the carriage back to the inn at a low price, then led his sister to the flying ship dock in Qing City. When they arrived, the siblings were shocked by the sight before them. On the vast river that stretched 1,000 zhang wide, enormous ships stood like floating fortresses. Each ship was at least 100 zhang wide, grand and majestic. Xuan and Ye Lian had never seen such gigantic ships before. Ye Lian shouted excitedly, "The ships are so big." "Big brother, will we sit on one of those later?" Xuan nodded with a smile. "We will take one to the Imperial Capital." Ye Lian tilted her head and asked curiously, "Is the Imperial Capital bigger than Qing City?" Xuan gently rubbed her head, "Of course. When we get there, I will take you walking through the streets and sightseeing. How about that?" Ye Lian's eyes shone brightly. "Big brother is the best." After saying this, she stood on tiptoe and kissed Xuan on the cheek, making him laugh. Then he led her forward. Xuan had already asked about the process of taking the flying ship the day before. So the siblings quickly bought tickets and boarded a ship together. He held 2 tickets to the Imperial Capital in his hand. The total cost was 40 gold coins, and his heart ached terribly. With less than 10 gold coins left in his pocket, he had truly fallen into poverty. Suddenly, he wanted to rob someone. There were more than 100 rooms of different sizes on the flying ship, and the rooms were also divided into several grades. According to what Xuan had learned, a first-class room required 150 gold coins, while a second-class room required 100. Even worse, the most terrifying special rooms cost as much as 300 gold coins. The money that an ordinary family in Qing City could not earn in a lifetime was only enough to buy a ticket for this ship. At that moment, Xuan finally understood what it meant for poverty to limit one's imagination. He led his sister into a cramped room on the lowest level of the ship. Inside, there was only 1 bed, 2 stools, and 1 table. It was simple to the point of being crude. Xuan rubbed Ye Lian's head. "The ship will not begin flying for another half an hour. Once it stabilizes, we will go to the deck and look at the scenery below." Ye Lian smiled brightly. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she hurriedly rummaged through her bundle. Very soon, she took out a pair of cloth shoes and handed them to her brother as if presenting a treasure. "I embroidered these for you, big brother. Try them on and see if they fit." Without waiting for Xuan to reply, she squatted down and began taking off his shoes. Xuan was still stunned. When had this girl embroidered them? Suddenly, Ye Lian cried "Ah," making him quickly look down. He saw the little girl covering her nose and wrinkling her face at him. "Your feet stink." As soon as she said this, she ran out like a gust of wind. Not long after, she returned with a basin of water in her hands. Ye Lian placed it before Xuan and lifted his feet into it. Xuan hurriedly cried out, "Let me do it myself." Ye Lian rolled her eyes at him, then lowered her head and carefully began washing his feet. After washing for a while, hot tears rolled down the little girl's cheeks when she saw the thick calluses on the soles of Xuan's feet and the unhealed scars on his calves. These were what he had received during the years he risked his life under the title of heir of the Ye family. Seeing Ye Lian like this, Xuan asked softly, "Why are you crying?" Ye Lian wiped her tears. "Because you have suffered too much. I swear that in the future I will become very, very, very strong. I will earn a lot of money so big brother can enjoy happiness." Xuan was the one who had raised her with his own hands. Very few people knew that their mother had left when Xuan was only 10 years old, and Ye Lian was only 4 or 5. Their early days in the Ye family had been no different from begging. They had only been able to survive on leftovers. In the process of stubbornly raising his sister, even Ye Lian did not know how much bitterness and suffering her brother had endured. Especially after he became the heir and began risking his life for the family. She only remembered that her brother would leave before the rooster crowed and return after the sky had turned completely dark. Every time he carried wounds all over his body. Ye Lian's words were like a warm current flowing into Xuan's heart. He stroked her hair. "Your health is more important than anything. There are many capable people in the Imperial Capital who can treat your illness. Once you recover, Big Brother will teach you to cultivate." Ye Lian continued gently washing his feet and said firmly, "If I recover, I will definitely cultivate hard." No matter how bitter it is, I want to be afraid. Xuan smiled and was about to answer when the room door suddenly burst open. A middle-aged man and two old men rushed in. Ye Lian jumped up in fright. Who are you people? The middle-aged man in front looked at Xuan. Do you still remember me? Xuan nodded. This person was Mo Kun. He was one of the three people who had chased Qin Chang in the forest. Without asking, Xuan knew the three had come for those spirit stones. He simply had not expected them to chase him all the way onto the flying ship. Mo Kun said, hand those things over, and we will give you a path to survive. Xuan replied in a low voice, the flying ship has rules forbidding fights. Mo Kun curled his lips. As long as we kill both of you and throw your bodies down, who will know? Xuan was silent for a while, then asked, if I hand those things over, will you truly spare us? Mo Kun narrowed his eyes, of course. We only want wealth. Xuan took a deep breath. Fine, consider it my bad luck. Then he took out the black pouch and walked toward Mo Kun. You must keep your word. Mo Kun stared at the pouch with burning eyes and his right hand slowly clenched. Of course. When he was only a few steps away, Xuan suddenly threw the pouch in his hand toward the old man beside Mo Kun. The three of them were stunned at the same time. The old man's instinct was to reach out and catch it, while Mo Kun's instinct was to pounce over and snatch it. In that instant, a flash of light appeared, slash. A sword appeared before Mo Kun. Just as he realized what it was, it pierced through his throat. A moment later, his head flew away and blood sprayed like a fountain. The two remaining old men turned pale with fear and hurriedly fled. But Xuan's sword was faster. It pierced through the back of one of them and killed him in an instant. The last old man rushed outside while shouting for help, alarming all the passengers on the lowest level. Knowing that trouble was about to arrive, Xuan's expression became somewhat ugly. He withdrew his sword. Before long, a woman wearing a purple dress and a veil entered the room, accompanied by a group of flying ship guards. Xuan's face darkened and his hands clenched. He could not see the woman's realm, but among those guards, 3 were in the Skysoar realm and 2 were at the peak of the Imperial Kai realm. A terrifying lineup. The strength of drunken immortal tower was truly terrifying. The veiled woman frowned slightly when she saw the 2 corpses on the floor. She asked Xuan, you killed them? Xuan nodded, they wanted to. Before he could explain, she waved her hand and turned to leave. Explain it down below. Kill these 2 and throw their corpses off the ship. Suddenly, Xuan opened his hand, revealing a sword floating above his palm. The woman who had already reached the door stopped and turned back to look at him in surprise. Sword cultivator? Xuan nodded, she shook her head. To become a sword cultivator at such a young age is indeed rare, but that is all. The rules of the flying ship are greater than the sky. Even a sword cultivator cannot violate them. Kill him. With that, she turned to leave again. At that moment, Xuan narrowed his eyes slightly and gripped the sword in his right hand. The sword trembled and emitted a faint glow. Everyone present was startled. The veiled woman stopped again. Xuan looked straight at her and said word by word, sorry, but I am a great sword cultivator. When he said this, his face did not redden, his heart did not skip, and his breathing did not become uneven. But inside, his heart was beating like a war drum. Great sword cultivator. Of course, he was not truly a great sword cultivator. The reason his sword could emit light was mainly because he activated one sword decides life and death. And the glow was a special sign of that sword technique. Although he himself had not yet reached the level of a great sword cultivator, he was not too far from it. The spirit sword in Xuan's hand emitted a faint sword glow, and the room suddenly became silent. The powerful guards who had rushed toward Xuan all stopped. Every pair of eyes was filled with shock and solemnity. In their minds, becoming a sword cultivator was difficult, but ordinary sword cultivators were not unheard of. Great sword cultivators, however, were different. How many were there in all of Jiang kingdoms? The great sword cultivators recorded in books numbered only a little over 100. Yet the young man before them was already a great sword cultivator at such an age. What kind of terrifying power could cultivate such a young great sword cultivator? At that moment, the veiled woman suddenly looked at the 2 corpses on the ground and said, throw those 2 corpses out to feed the dogs. Also, capture the one who just escaped, beat him to death, and throw him off the flying ship. After speaking, she looked at Xuan. Arrange a first-class room for this young master. Do not be discourteous. With that, she turned and left. Inside the room, the powerful guards bowed slightly to Xuan and then withdrew. One guard said respectfully, "Young master, please follow me." Xuan pondered briefly, then led Ye Lian after him. The guard brought the siblings to a first-class room. The moment they entered, both siblings were completely stunned. Large, extremely large. This first-class room was at least 10 times larger than their previous room, and the furnishings inside were extremely luxurious. Its arrangement was almost like a palace. Even the floor was covered with the hide of some unknown beast, soft underfoot. The guard bowed slightly to Xuan and Ye Lian, then withdrew. Wow. Ye Lian looked around in amazement. Big brother, this room is so big. I have to look at it carefully. Xuan gently rubbed Ye Lian's little head and smiled without speaking. As if thinking of something, Ye Lian raised her little head and looked at Xuan. Big brother, is it because you are some great sword cultivator that they treat us so well? Xuan nodded lightly. Why? Ye Lian did not quite understand. Xuan smiled. Because life has always been like this. Ye Lian wanted to ask more, but suddenly there was a knock at the door. Xuan turned and said, "Come in." The door opened and a woman walked in. It was the veiled woman in the purple dress from before. The veiled woman sat down and gestured with her hand. "Young master, please sit." Xuan sat opposite her. Ye Lian obediently sat not far away and looked at the woman curiously. The veiled woman poured Xuan a cup of tea and said, "This is immortal bamboo tip. Young master, please have a taste." Xuan nodded lightly. "Miss, you are too polite." With that, he took a small sip. The tea entered his throat, sweet and cool, extremely comfortable. Good tea. Xuan put down the cup and looked at the veiled woman before him. He introduced himself. "I am Xuan from Qing City." The veiled woman looked at Xuan and said, "Han Xiangmeng." Xuan smiled and said nothing. The other party had only given a name, clearly unwilling to reveal too much. Han Xiangmeng gently took a sip of tea and said, "Young master has become a great sword cultivator at such a young age. Your teacher must be from a famous sect. May I ask where young master's inheritance comes from?" She wanted to probe his background. Xuan shook his head and smiled. Seeing this, Han Xiangmeng frowned slightly. What does young master mean? Xuan looked directly at Han Xiangmeng and said, "Miss Han, forgive me for asking directly, but do you make friends based on background?" Han Xiangmeng narrowed her eyes slightly. Clearly, she had not expected Xuan to ask such a question. Xuan continued, "Miss Han, when making friends, what matters is sincerity. Not petty tricks, and certainly not looking at another person's family background. Of course, if this is the rule by which Miss Han makes friends, then forgive me for being unable to accompany you." After speaking, he stood and looked toward Ye Lian not far away. "Let us go." Ye Lian obediently ran to Xuan's side. Xuan said he would leave and truly left, without the slightest hesitation. But just as the siblings reached the door, Han Xiangmeng suddenly called out, "Young master, please wait." Xuan stopped. Han Xiangmeng said softly, "I was abrupt earlier. Please do not blame me, young master." Xuan turned to look at Han Xiangmeng and replied, "Miss Han, regarding the killing earlier, you did not hold it against me. I will remember this favor. One day I will certainly repay it." These words were, in truth, a subtle expression of distance. Naturally, Han Xiangmeng also understood the meaning behind Xuan's words. However, she did not explain anything. She only nodded lightly. "It is late. Young master should rest early." With that, she turned and left the room. Outside the room, an old man appeared behind Han Xiangmeng and asked carefully, "Miss?" Han Xiangmeng stopped and said, "As expected of a sword cultivator. His temperament is different from ordinary people." The old man nodded. Sword cultivators have always traveled alone, and their temperaments are somewhat strange. Miss had already shown great sincerity by giving him your name first, yet that boy still felt that Miss was arrogant. Truly. Han Xiangmeng shook her head. "It is fine. This person has a straightforward nature. Although he makes people somewhat uncomfortable, he is still better than those who smile while hiding knives in their bellies. Pass down my order. Before they arrive at the Imperial Capital, let them remain in the first-class room. Daily service is also to be first class. They must not be treated carelessly. After saying this, she quickly walked away, inside the room. Big Brother is a great sword cultivator, very powerful. He should be very powerful. Aren't you a great sword cultivator? Of course Big Brother is a great sword cultivator. Almost. Wow, Big Brother lied to me. HMPH, you know too much. Big Brother must kill you to silence you. I am not afraid. Half an hour later, Xuan tucked in Ye Lian, who had fallen asleep, then entered the World Prison Tower. Cultivation. Only the strong were respected. The reality of society reminded him of this truth every moment. Right now, he was already at the peak of the Kai transformation realm, and also a peak minor sword cultivator. His speed, physical strength, and reaction ability had almost reached their limit. It could be said that although he was only in the Kai transformation realm, an Imperial Kai realm expert might not necessarily be his match. As for those in the same realm, although he could not say he was invincible, there were definitely very few who could contend with him. But he understood very clearly that the martial Dao was like rowing against the current. If one did not advance, one would retreat. Therefore, he did not dare relax at all. At present, when fighting the shadow, he could already fight it evenly. But this alone was still not enough to satisfy him. His goal was to defeat the shadow. Inside the World Prison Tower, Xuan was alone. He had long been used to being alone. As for the mysterious woman, under normal circumstances, if she did not speak first, Xuan would not disturb her. Because he knew she definitely would not chat with him. Cultivation was dull and it was lonely. After 2 hours, Xuan stopped. He stood in place holding his sword, his whole body drenched in sweat. Xuan looked at the Ling Xiao sword in his hand and said, "Senior, why is it that every time I spar with the shadow, I feel like that time is already my absolute limit, but the next time I spar I still feel the same? Did you increase the shadow's strength?" After a while, the mysterious woman's voice sounded. "If you feel this way, it proves that you are improving every time. As for limits, there are no limits. Your current foundation is not bad, but that is only when compared within Qing City and Jiang Kingdom. If extended to the great sects in powerful countries, you are only ordinary. Therefore, it is good for you to remain in the Kai transformation realm for a while, though of course you cannot stay there too long. As for spirit swords, you still need to think of a way to solve that." Xuan nodded lightly. "I understand." What he needed to do now was improve every aspect of his strength before reaching the Imperial Kai realm. After stopping cultivation, Xuan washed himself and then rested. Cultivation also had to have limits, otherwise it was no different from suicide. An hour and a half later, Xuan woke up. Ye Lian also woke. Very soon, breakfast was delivered. The food was abundant and the siblings almost cleaned it out completely. There was no helping it. They had been poor for too long. It was rare to eat something this good, so of course they could not waste it. After eating, Xuan took Ye Lian out of the room and went to the cloud ship's deck. At this time, the cloud ship had already flown into the sky, at least several hundred zhang above the ground. Countless people had gathered on the deck. The siblings walked to the bow. This area could only be entered by those in first-class rooms, and it also had the best view. Xuan raised his head and looked out. In the distance, mountains surrounded them. From time to time, the shadows of birds flew out from the mountains. Wow! Ye Lian shouted excitedly beside him, "Big brother, look. Those mountains are all so tiny." Xuan gently rubbed Ye Lian's little head. Then he raised his head and looked into the distance, staring at the green mountains and white clouds until he became lost in thought. When he had been on the ground, the scenery he could see had been limited. But now, flying through the air, what he saw was completely different. Qing City was very small, the world was very large, he was very small. Heaven and earth were very large. Seeing Xuan lost in thought, Ye Lian immediately quieted down. She knew her brother was probably thinking about something. She walked to a corner not far away, held the railing and sighed with admiration. "It is so beautiful, What a country bumpkin. At that moment, a piercing voice entered Ye Lian's ears. She turned her head and saw a little boy standing not far away. He seemed about her age and was dressed extremely luxuriously. However, the little boy was terribly fat, so fat that his eyes were almost buried under the flesh. Ye Lian looked away. She did not want to cause trouble for her brother. But the little boy walked over to Ye Lian, sized her up and said with disdain, "Look at your clothes. They even have patches. Can you not afford a set of clothes?" Ye Lian said calmly, "What is wrong with these clothes? As long as they can be worn, that is enough. Having big brother is enough." The little boy patted his own clothes proudly and said, "Do you know what this is? These clothes are made from the hide of a spirit fox demon beast. They could buy 100,000 sets like yours." Ye Lian glanced at the boy's clothes and said, "I don't care. I have big brother." The little boy took out a glowing piece of jade. Ye Lian's gaze was immediately drawn to it. The jade was pure and flawless, very beautiful. Seeing that Ye Lian was paying attention, the little boy said proudly, "This is the finest spirit jade. It is worth 1,000 gold pieces. Do you have one?" Ye Lian snorted and replied, "I have big brother." The little boy became angry. "Can you stop mentioning your brother?" Ye Lian ignored him. She only raised her head and looked toward the distant horizon, saying softly, "I only have big brother."